At family dinner, my dad announced, "The vacation will be just for our family." My brother grinned. "Perfect. I need a break from work." Dad smirked. "Oh, you won't be coming. It's time you learn how I've been paying your bills." I can still hear the scrape of Jake's fork against his plate, the clink of Mom's wedding ring against her glass as she shifted uncomfortably. I remember the smell of pot roast filling the dining room, mixing with the faint trace of my father's bourbon. It was a regular Sunday dinner, one of those predictable family gatherings where we sat in the same seats we always did. Dad at the head of the table, Mom to his right, me on his left, and Jake across from me. But that night was different. Dad wiped his mouth with a napkin, sat back in his chair, and cleared his throat. "This vacation will be just for our family." Jake, swirling the last bit of wine in his glass, grinned. "Perfect. I need a break from work." That's when Dad smirked. Not the playful kind. The dangerous kind. "Oh, you won't be coming." He picked up his glass, took a slow sip, then set it back down. "It's time you learn how I've been paying your bills." Silence. The kind that stretched and thickened the air. The kind that made your heartbeat feel too loud in your ears. Jake blinked, a small laugh escaping. "What?" Dad didn't repeat himself. He just stared at Jake, waiting for the realization to settle in. And when it did, the air in the room changed. I felt it. Mom felt it. Jake sure as HLL felt it. I set my fork down carefully. "Dad, what are you talking about?" Dad exhaled, rubbing his jaw. He looked tired. Not physically, but in that I've been carrying a secret for too long kind of way. He swirled his bourbon in his glass, watching the liquid slosh against the sides like it held all the answers. Then he looked at Jake. "I mean exactly what I said. You've been living off money that isn't yours. And it's time you face the truth." Jake let out another dry laugh, but this one didn't sound amused. "That's bullshit. I have a job." Dad smirked again. "Oh yeah? And what exactly does that job pay you, Jake?" Jake frowned. "You know what I make." Dad's eyebrows lifted. "Do I?" I glanced at Mom. Her fingers were gripping the napkin in her lap so tightly that her knuckles had gone white. Dad turned back to Jake. "Tell me something, son. How is it that a guy with an entry-level salary can afford a high-rise apartment, an Audi, and weekend trips to Miami?" Jake's face darkened. "I make it work." Dad snorted. "No, I make it work." Jake's jaw tensed. "What's that supposed to mean?" Dad took another slow sip, like he was enjoying dragging this out. Then, setting the glass down, he leaned forward, elbows on the table. "It means I've been covering your rent when you come up short. It means when you max out your credit cards, I pay them off. It means every time you swipe that fancy little platinum Amex, it's not your money you're spending." Jake's face went still. His mouth opened slightly, like he wanted to argue, but no words came out. Dad tilted his head. "How do you think that car stays in your name, Jake? Or your electricity stays on?" Jake shook his head. "No, I've only borrowed money a couple of times." Dad sighed. "Oh, kid, you really are blind, aren't you?" I felt something cold settle in my stomach. My fingers curled under the table, pressing into my palms. "Dad." And then Dad turned to me. And I knew. I f***ing knew. His expression softened just a little, as if that would somehow lessen the impact of what he was about to say. "Caroline," he said gently, "you remember that investment account I set up for you?" My stomach turned to stone. I nodded. Dad nodded back, slow and deliberate. "That's where the money came from." I felt like the world had tilted on its axis. "What?" Dad's voice remained calm. "It wasn't just an investment fund. It was, let's call it a resource for the family." My heart pounded so hard I thought I might actually be sick. "My money." Dad didn't answer. He just took another sip of his bourbon. I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping against the hardwood. "You used my f***ing savings to fund Jake's life?" Jake finally found his voice. "Wait. What?" Dad exhaled. "Now, don't be dramatic, Caroline." I laughed. I actually laughed. It was short and sharp and completely void of humor. "Dramatic? You stole from me." Dad's expression darkened. "Watch your tone." Jake, still looking shell-shocked, turned to me. "You didn't know?" I whipped my head toward him. Of course I didn't f***ing know. My voice cracked, the weight of betrayal pressing against my ribs. "I thought I was saving for a house. For my future." Mom finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Richard, how much?" Dad sighed, rubbing his temple. "Richard." Her voice was sharp now. "How much did you take from her?" He hesitated. And that hesitation told me everything I needed to know. I felt my breath hitch. "How much?" Dad ran a hand through his thinning hair, then muttered. "Over 100 grand." The world blurred. Jake let out a strangled noise. "Holy SHD. I gripped the edge of the table, my nails digging into the wood. "You took $100,000 from me?" Dad held up a hand. "It's not as bad as it sounds." I let out a short, shaky breath. "Not as bad as it sounds. Not as bad as it sounds. Are you f***ing serious?" My voice cracked on the last word, rage and hurt tangling in my throat. Mom's face was pale. "Richard, I trusted you." Dad rubbed his face, suddenly looking exhausted. "I had to. Jake was drowning. What was I supposed to do? Let him fail?" Jake pushed back from the table abruptly. Are you effing kidding me? His voice was raw. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted you to steal from my sister for me? Dad threw his hands up. I saved you, Jake. Jake let out a bitter laugh. No, Dad. You didn't save me. You lied to me. You made me a effing thief without me even knowing it. Dad shook his head, jaw tightening. Don't be dramatic. Jake stared at him, then scoffed. Jesus Christ. You really don't see it, do you? I felt a wave of nausea hit me. My hands were shaking. My whole body was shaking. I forced myself to stand, grabbing my coat. Dad frowned. Where are you going? I didn't look at him. I need to leave before I say something I can't take back. Mom looked at me with tear-filled eyes. Jake ran a hand through his hair, looking like he might actually be sick. And Dad, he just sat there, swirling his effing bourbon. Like he hadn't just detonated a BMB in the middle of our family. Like he hadn't just destroyed everything. And the worst part? I wasn't sure we'd ever recover. I stormed out of the dining room, barely able to breathe. My heels clicked against the hardwood as I grabbed my purse from the front hall, my fingers shaking as I fumbled for my keys. I needed to get out. I needed air. Caroline, wait. I heard Jake behind me, but I ignored him. My pulse was hammering in my ears, drowning out everything else. I yanked open the front door, but before I could step outside, a hand caught my wrist. Jake. I turned, my eyes burning. Let go of me. My voice was hoarse. Jake swallowed hard. His face was pale, his expression wrecked. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know. I pulled my arm free. That doesn't change anything. Jake flinched, like I had slapped him. Caroline, please, he said, voice raw. FCK, I should have known. I should have realized something wasn't right, but I was so caught up in, he broke off, exhaling sharply. Just don't go yet. I let out a sharp laugh, blinking back the furious, humiliated tears that threatened to fall. And why the HLL shouldn't I? Jake ran a hand down his face, looking completely lost. Because I need to fix this. I let his words hang in the air for a moment, then shook my head. You can't. His throat bobbed. I have to try. Something in his voice made me pause. For the first time in his life, Jake wasn't full of excuses. There was no charm, no smooth talking. Just guilt. Just shame. I swallowed hard, wrapping my arms around myself. I need space, Jake. He exhaled, nodding once. Okay. Then I walked out the door. I didn't go straight home. I drove for hours, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I didn't even know where I was going, just that I couldn't be there. My mind kept replaying the dinner like a broken record. The smug look on Dad's face. The way Mom had shrunk in her seat, silent and ashamed. The way Jake had looked when he realized everything he thought he had built for himself was a lie. And me, the fool. I had trusted him. Him, my father. I should have known better. I ended up at a gas station just outside of town, parked under the flickering fluorescent lights, my forehead pressed against the steering wheel. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something, break something, hurt something. But instead, I just sat there, breathing in the smell of gasoline and cheap coffee, feeling the weight of it all pressed down on me like a physical thing. Then my phone buzzed. I lifted my head, glancing at the screen. Mom. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the decline button. Then, with a sigh, I picked up. Her voice was small. Sweetheart. I closed my eyes. Mom. A pause. Then, I'm so sorry. Something in my chest cracked open. I pressed my fingers against my temple. How long have you known? Mom let out a slow, shaky breath. A few months. My stomach clenched. And you didn't tell me? I wanted to, she whispered. I swear I did. But every time I tried, your father. Her voice caught, and she went quiet. I exhaled through my nose, gripping the steering wheel. And you just let him do it? No, she said quickly. I didn't let him, Caroline. I fought with him about it. I begged him to stop, but he just kept making excuses. Said he'd pay you back, said it was temporary. I scoffed. Temporary? 100 grand, Mom. A small, broken sound escaped her. I know. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to breathe. I should have done more, she whispered. I should have stopped him. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Yeah. Silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. Then she said something I wasn't expecting. I'm leaving him. I blinked. What? Mom exhaled. I'm filing for divorce. I sat up straighter. Are you serious? Her voice was steadier now. I should have left a long time ago. I didn't know what to say to that. Then, softer, she added, I need to fix this too. I let out a slow breath, staring out at the empty road ahead. Yeah, I murmured. You do. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my thoughts racing too fast, too loud. By the time morning came, I knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to let Dad get away with this. And I wasn't going to let him control me anymore. So I got up. I showered. I got dressed. Then I called a lawyer. I didn't waste time. By noon, I was sitting in a downtown Charleston law office, across from a woman named Sandra Whitmore, mid-40s, sharp as a blade, and the kind of person you didn't bullshit. She skimmed through the paperwork I had printed from my online banking statements, her expression unreadable. Then she set the papers down and laced her fingers together. Well, she said, tilting her head. Your father's in deep SHD. I let out a short breath. Yeah, that much I figured. Sandra leaned back. Here's the deal. Since your name was on the accounts, technically, you have a claim to that money. The problem is, your father was managing them as a trustee, which means he was supposed to act in your best interest. Instead, he misappropriated funds. She raised an eyebrow. And in South Carolina? That's fraud. I swallowed hard. What does that mean exactly? It means, she said, sliding a legal pad toward me. You have enough to take him to court. And if we play this right, we can make sure he loses everything. I stared at her. She smirked. Poetic, isn't it? I thought about it. About all the times Dad had dismissed me, belittled me, treated me like I was just some naive little girl who couldn't possibly understand how the world worked. Well, it was time to show him how wrong he was. I straightened my shoulders. Let's do it. The lawsuit hit Dad like a wrecking ball. It was a civil suit, embezzlement, financial fraud, misappropriation of funds. Sandra worked fast, freezing the remaining accounts before he could drain them. Within weeks, the case was making waves in the local business community. People talked. His business partners got nervous. Investors started pulling out. Mom, true to her word, filed for divorce. And because she had her own lawyer, one who was just as ruthless as mine, she went after everything she was entitled to. The house, the cars, the savings. She'd been married to him for 35 years, and she damn well wasn't walking away empty-handed. Jake, for his part, took responsibility. He started paying me back, slowly but steadily. He picked up extra shifts, sold the Audi, moved into a smaller apartment. I didn't forgive him immediately, but I respected that he wasn't running from it. And Dad, he lost. Not just in court, but in everything. He settled, of course. He didn't want the scandal to drag out in trial. But the damage was done. His reputation was ruined. By the time it was over, he was broke. Not technically bankrupt, but damn close. His businesses folded. His friends, the ones who used to kiss his ass at country club dinners, stopped returning his calls. He tried to call me once. I let it go to voicemail. 6 months after the lawsuit, I was sitting at a coffee shop downtown when I saw him. He was sitting alone at a corner table, a newspaper spread out in front of him, an untouched cup of coffee next to his hand. I almost ignored him. Almost. But then I thought, no, he deserved to see what he had done to himself. So I walked over. He looked up when I stopped at his table. For the first time in my life, he looked small. His tailored suits were gone. He was wearing a wrinkled button-down, his hair grayer than I remembered. The confidence, the arrogance, it wasn't gone, exactly, but it had cracks in it now. I set my cup down on his table. You look like HLL. He let out a dry chuckle. You must be happy. I tilted my head. Not happy, just satisfied. He sighed, rubbing his jaw. You really went for the throat, huh? You stole from me. I said it flatly, without emotion. And you thought I'd just let it go? He was quiet for a moment. Then he exhaled. I should have handled things differently. I almost laughed. Handled things differently? I shook my head. You didn't just handle things wrong, Dad. You destroyed our family. A shadow passed over his face. I didn't mean to. I stared at him. Yeah, you did. He held my gaze. I lost everything, you know. I picked up my cup, took a slow sip. Then I shrugged. Sounds like a you problem. His mouth tightened. I set the cup down. By the way, Mom's doing great. She's happier than she's been in years. Jake's working his ass off to fix his mistakes. Me? I'm finally free. I leaned in slightly. So tell me, Dad, what do you have left? He swallowed, looking away. For the first time in his life, he had nothing to say. I straightened, grabbed my coffee, and turned to leave. And just before I walked away, I glanced over my shoulder. Enjoy your coffee, I said. Then I walked out the door. And I never looked back.